This story revolves around an alternative past timeline, as the tables have turned as humans are no longer the dominant species on Earth. A massive alien spacecraft has been hovering over Johannesburg for decades, housing millions of refugees from their dying home planet. These refugees, known as prawns, are confined to a sprawling ghetto called District 9, where they live in squalor and are treated with disdain by the human government. But when a government official, Wikus van der Merwe, is accidentally exposed to an alien substance that begins to transform him into a prawn, he is forced to go on the run, seeking help from the very people he once despised. The movie opens up in an alternate 1982. A huge alien spaceship arrives on Earth and hovers above South Africa. For 3 months, there is no activity from the ship. So, the authorities finally decide to cut their way inside, only to discover a group of aliens in a malnourished condition. It is revealed that the aliens had run out of supplies a long time ago. As news of their presence begins to spread, these aliens get a derogatory name, prawns, from their humans counterparts. Rumors also talk about how a shuttle descended from the mothership, but nobody is able to find it. After receiving lots of international pressure, the South African government moves 1.8 million prawns to a refugee camp known as District 9. Despite having hovered over ground for so long, the aliens never attacked or even probed the Earth. This prompts scholars to believe that these prawns are the workers of their species. They rarely take any initiative by themselves and therefore need a higher authority to command them. Although it's surrounded by soldiers and fences, the first few months in the district are peaceful. It is also discovered that these aliens primarily love cat food, meaning that there is no direct threat towards humans. But as time passes, humans begin rioting because the government is using too many resources on aliens instead of taking care of their people. On top of that, District 9 becoming a slum further flames people's xenophobia. The fact that these aliens see certain violent activities like setting fire to vehicles and looting as merely entertainment doesn't help their case either. Eventually, the area becomes overcrowded and a hot spot for all kinds of crime. Shortly thereafter, a paralyzed psychopathic Nigerian warlord, Obasanjo, opens a massive black market in District 9, which includes prostitution, humans, and arms trafficking. In the meantime, scientists find out that the alien technology is quite advanced. However, human hands aren't capable of handling their weapons due to the constraints of our physiology. 28 years later, the tension between aliens and locals makes the government relent to public pressure, and they decide to move the refugee camp away from the city to a remote location. To do so, they hire a private contractor called Multinational United, or MNU in short. However, it is quite clear from the get-go that the MNU is not interested in the welfare of the aliens at all. The chief executive officer of the MNU, Piet Smit, appoints his employee and son-in-law, Wikus van der Merwe, to lead the relocation. A group of mercenaries will also come along for the sake of Wikus's safety and to push along any aliens that resists. Wikus's assistant and a cameraman also come along to record the project. While they get ready, Wikus isn't happy to see how many weapons the mercenaries have brought. But Colonel Kubus Venter, a mercenary veteran, insults him and tells him to deal with it. A whole convoy of vehicles carry the team through the district to be able to cross through the protests. And when few prawns try to attack them, the mercenaries defend themselves with killing shots. Once inside District 9, Wikus goes from door to door, asking the prawns to sign the forms that inform them of their eviction. In case the discussion got stuck, he uses cat food as a form of bargain. While some aliens accept to cooperate, others don't want to be taken from their homes and try to fight, which causes the mercenaries to take them out by force despite Wikus's protests. In one of the houses, they find prawn eggs filling the room from wall to wall, and after showing the bizarre scene to the camera, Wikus orders a mercenary to burn the stash of food. Several of the shacks in the slum also contain lots of hidden alien technology that the mercenaries confiscate for the MNU to continue testing, even if they haven't figured it out yet. Meanwhile, 3 aliens, Christopher, his son, CJ, and his friend Paul are seeking a special alien fluid from destroyed prawn technology that has piled up with the trash. CJ finally finds a piece after 2 decades, and the group excitedly takes it to their home, where they take the fluid to a hidden room filled with advanced tech. The fluid is synthesized and put inside a silver cylinder to carry on their plan. But at that moment, Wickus and his team knock on the door. Christopher and CJ rush back to their own homes. And after hiding the cylinder, Paul goes out to deal with the humans. However, since he doesn't want to cooperate in the relocation process, the mercenaries quickly push him into the ground and hold him at gunpoint. Wickus then enters the house to investigate and finds loads of weapons plus the cylinder, which he accidentally activates and causes it to spray his face. After confiscating the cylinder, Wickus tries to ask Paul some questions, but an already enraged Paul responds by hurling the mercenaries guarding him into his house and pushing Wickus onto a barrel of fire. Colonel Venter arrives at the spot with more men and immediately kills Paul. On the other hand, Wickus discovers that he's burned his arm. But after receiving medical attention, Wickus continues with his duty and eventually makes it to Christopher's house. He tries to give some candy to CJ, but the latter responds by throwing it back at him. Not understanding where this anger is coming from, this reaction enrages the humans who decide to push Christopher to his knees and inspect the house. There, they discover all sorts of equipment. While looking around, Wickus suddenly throws up a lot of weird liquid and begins feeling dizzy. The team decides to take him away for now, but when they stop to grab a bite, Wickus' nose begins bleeding. More symptoms keep appearing. When Wickus returns to the office to do his reports, he can't stop coughing and his nails come out of his fingers. Back in District 9, Christopher and CJ look for the cylinder and get sad when they find it gone. Meanwhile, a group of prawns trades their battlesuit for a bunch of cat food at the warlord's base. However, one of the men kills a prawn to use him as food. It is then revealed that Obasanjo has been hiring witches and shamans because he wants to become a prawn duet to be able to use their weapons. And these witches think that can be achieved if he consumes prawn flesh. However, so far, it hasn't worked. Sometime later, Wickus returns home to discover his wife, Tanya Smith, throwing him a surprise party to celebrate his promotion. Wickus tries to be social and friendly, but he isn't feeling well at all. He ends up in the bathroom, throwing up in the sink, and when they cut the cake, he throws up again before passing out. The next morning, he wakes up in the hospital. The doctor removes the bandages from his burned arm, only to discover that his hand has become a prawn claw. Terrified, the doctor calls the MNU and a bunch of soldiers quickly arrive to take Wickus away in a body bag, while ignoring Tanya's pleas for an explanation. Later at a lab, the staff finds the cylinder in Wickus' pocket and they take it away. From there on, the MNU puts Wickus through a series of brutal experiments, including trying out alien technology. To his surprise, his new hand has enough prawn DNA to use the alien weapons. But he also suffers as they make him shoot various targets, and at the end, he also has to shoot a prawn to death, which mentally destroys him. Once the tests are over, the scientists and the executives, including Piet Smit himself, agreed to kill Wickus in order to harvest his organs and blood before he finishes transforming into a complete prawn. With DNA composed of the perfect prawn and human balance, they could create great soldiers capable of using the alien weapons. When he hears this, Wickus freaks out and attacks everyone around him, using a scalpel to get a hostage so he's able to escape the lab before he's shot. The mercenaries are ordered to go after him, and Smite meets with Tanya to give her a twisted version of what's going on. On the streets, Wickus steals clothes from hangers, a phone from a kid, and scavenges trash cans for food. While always trying to keep his claw hidden, he tries to call his friends and family to ask for help, but everyone ignores him, and soon he learns why. When he enters a store, he sees a new broadcast announcing that he is a wanted fugitive that developed a transmissible disease from having coitus with the prawns. Everyone in the shop runs away from him, and Wickes accepts that he has no choice but to go to District 9. There, he scavenges as well and even manages to obtain a kind of cat food, which he eats eagerly until he realizes he is losing his teeth as well. At that moment, Wickes receives a call from Tanya, who informs him that she doesn't want anything to do with him anymore because she is disgusted at his actions. Tanya ends the call without hearing his explanation, and Wickes is so desperate to get her back that he gets an axe to try to get rid of the claw. However, he's so nervous that he only gets one finger, and the pain is too much to continue. Suddenly, mercenary helicopters begin looking for him in the area. Wickes rushes to hide inside a house and bumps into Christopher, discovering his secret room right before passing out from blood loss from his wound. When he wakes up later, he finds himself inside the rumored shuttle hidden under Christopher's house. When Wickes reveals that he doesn't have the cylinder anymore, Christopher and CJ explain they need the fluid to operate the mothership again, and it could also power a machine that can help Wickes reverse his transformation. Retrieving the cylinder would be impossible because the mercenaries would kill them on the spot. Wickes spends the following hours suffering the pain of his body transforming as his skin sheds and his torso also mutates. Suddenly, he gets another call from Tanya, and this time she promises to take him back and to be more understanding. However, this is a trap by the MNU who made Tanya call with lies to track Wickes' location. Meanwhile, CJ tells Christopher how much he misses his home planet, but Christopher reminds him they can't go anywhere without the fluid, so they should go to the new settlement. Wickes overhears this and feels bad for them. So he explains the new territory is even worse than this one, and going there is just a bad idea. Desperate to help the prawns and go back to his wife in a better state, Wickes announces he has a plan. Afterward, Wickes goes to Obasanjo to try to buy some weapons, but he's received with disdain and violence. When the men push Wicked, they notice his transformed body, and the Nigerian warlord sends orders to get his claw for him to eat. Wickes struggles against the men and finds an alien weapon on the ground, which he immediately takes and begins shooting around. Its power is incredible and quickly kills a bunch of Obasanjo's men, allowing him to grab a bag of weapons and escape. Meanwhile, the mercenaries arrive at Christopher's shack only to find it empty. It turns out, Christopher and Wickes are sneaking into the MNU base by blowing up the entrance, and as soon as they arrive at the lab, they shoot a few men before finding the cylinder. However, Christopher also finds many prawns that have been killed and experimented on, including Paul. The shock doesn't let him move, and this gives the mercenaries time to catch up with them and open fire. Wickes fires back and kills lots of mercenaries while he reminds Christopher of CJ's future, which helps the prawn snap out of his stupor. Then, Christopher uses scraps found around the lab to make a bomb, which is used to create an opening on the wall. Wickes and Christopher rush outside and steal a MNU car to return to District 9, while Colonel Vetera and his men follow him. Once they make it to the house, CJ begins putting the fluid in the shuttle, and Christopher uses that moment to confess he'll come back in 3 years to cure Wickes because the current fluid isn't enough to both power the shuttle and the healing him through another machine. Furious, Wickes knocks out Christopher and descends into the shuttle where CJ is putting the fluid into the shuttle and makes the shuttle work again. A desperate Wickes tries to operate the shuttle, while Venner arrives and threatens to kill Christopher. Suddenly, the ground starts to shake and Venner and Christopher run out of the house right before the shuttle raises from the ground not very smoothly. Venner orders his men to open fire, and a missile immediately destroys one of the shuttle's engines. So Christopher has to watch his last hope, the spaceship crashing to the ground. Afterward, Venner's men capture Christopher and Wickes to take them away in their car. However, the vehicle is suddenly ambushed by Obasanjo's gang, causing their cars to crash against Venter's. Then, the gang opens fire and fiercely fights against the mercenaries until they grab Wickes, taking him away while leaving Christopher behind. Meanwhile, CJ deals with the shuttle panel and manages to activate the mothership again. At the gang space, Wickus is taken to the witches to try to perform the ritual using his claw. However, when CJ activates the mothership, this also activates all other alien tech, including the battle suit hidden in the gang's base. The suit scans the area and detects Wickus as a prawn ally, but the gang members as human enemies, so it opens fire to kill Obasanjo and his entire gang. Back to the mercenaries, a few of them interrogate Christopher about the revived mothership, while the rest of the group goes after Wickus. Finding himself surrounded, Wickus has no choice but to put on the suit and meet them face to face. When he notices the mercenaries captured Christopher, he offers to trade the alien for exchange of his freedom. However, he quickly changes his mind when he hears Venter order his men to kill Christopher. Furious, Wickus begins killing mercenaries with no mercy in order to save Christopher. Then, they rush back to the shuttle, but since more mercenaries are coming after them, Wickus stays behind. When the time to leave comes, Christopher refuses to come when Christopher invites him to his planet as thanks. The prawn promises to return in 3 years to cure it. Wickus keeps on killing mercenaries all over the place, spilling blood everywhere, flipping a car when it comes after him, and even shooting a few missiles. When he's about to shoot Venter too, a car hits him from behind and he falls with the suit malfunctioning. At that moment, Christopher contacts the mothership through the shuttle control panel and makes the mothership extract the shuttle. So he and CJ escape. The mothership emits a tractor beam and picks up the shuttle. Venter sees this and orders for another missile to be fired. But Wickus immediately cuts in and uses his suit to grab the missile, which explodes and destroys his left arm. Seeing Christopher and CJ escape in the mothership makes Venter incredibly angry. So, he shoots the suit until he destroys it. Wickus crawls out of it, showing his left eye is swollen and yellow, meaning he's about to finish transforming. Venter points his gun and is ready to kill, but suddenly a bunch of prawns show up and kill him instead to save Wickus, who is now seen as a prawn too. Sometime later, humans celebrate that the mothership has left Earth. Wickus's assistant exposes the MNU's illegal research. Thus, the government safely transfers all the 2.5 million prawns to the new District 10 before demolishing the old one in 9. Wickus's story becomes famous, but most people stop thinking about him after a while, thinking he's dead. However, Tanya knows Wickus is fine because she finds a handcrafted metal flower at her door, and Wickus has always liked crafts. Back in the landfill, it's revealed Wickus is alive and fully a prawn now. In the ending scene, he makes more metal flowers with trash.